So I'm going to try to keep this short, but ultimately it's probably not going to be. So you might want to get a cup of coffee or something. So a lot of you guys have seen pieces of my inch pack in other videos, but I wanted to just take the time to kind of explain in a little more detail some of my philosophy behind my EDLs pack, or what's more commonly referred to or known as an inch pack or a bug out bag. So first of all, this is my EDLs pack, what I call the EDLs pack. EDLs is an acronym for Extended Desert Living System. The idea behind it is that this pack I should be able to grab at any point and walk away from civilization and have enough stuff to sustain life for, my goal is a period of 3 to 6 months out of it. The pack system should contain either what I need to survive or what I need to procure what I need to survive. It's built expressly for surviving for a long-term period of time in a desert, semi-desert, or high desert environment. When it comes to my EDLs system, there's a couple of criteria that I wanted it to meet. One was I wanted to be able to cover a minimum of 7 miles a day with the entire system on my back. So what that means for me is I have to hit a weight limit that I can comfortably carry for 7 miles a day on a sustained basis. So that's one criteria. The second criteria is it has to be 4-season compatible, meaning I don't want to change gear out in it based on the season. So the pack has to sit ready to go for any season, from the extreme coldest part of winter to the extreme hottest part of summer. Another criteria that I set for it is I want the pack to be completely self-sufficient for 21 days, for a minimum of 21 days, meaning that with the exception of water, everything is in the pack that I would need to live for 21 days under, normal circumstances, any of the 4 seasons again. So those are kind of my baseline criteria. The ability to be able to sustain a pace of 7 miles a day, 4-season compatible, and self-sufficient out of the system for 21 days. My EDLs system also is built to be backwards compatible. And what I mean by backwards compatible is I build it to be an inch pack, but it also functions as a bug out bag or a get home pack. Now, it's logical to think that it doesn't make much sense to have a bug out bag that weighs 60 pounds and has all the capabilities that my inch pack does. And I agree with that. But if I'm not inching out with that pack, if all I need to do is get a short distance back home or bug out for a short period of time, nothing says that I can't strip half the gear out of that pack and dump it on the ground and walk away from it. So my theory is I build it for the long term. Anything less than that can be accomplished by just removing items from the pack. So my EDLs pack consists of a couple of different components. The pack itself, which I'll give you guys a closer view of here, the pistol belt, accessory belt, my Hill People Gear chest pack, and a couple of different firearms. So let's talk for a minute about the gear selection in my pack. There are 2 main factors that drive gear selection in that pack. One is multi-use or multi-purpose. For example, I have an axe in my system. So for the most part, I believe in using a knife for what a knife is designed for and using an axe for what an axe is designed for. But should something happen to my axe, some of those tasks may fall to my knife to be able to perform. So that kind of thought process follows a lot of the gear through the whole system. So the first criteria is multi-purpose. The second one is longevity and durability. So it's one thing to have a tool that'll perform a task, and then it's the next level to have a tool that will perform a task day in, day out over an extended period of time. Another theme with the items in the pack that I've followed fairly closely is I've really avoided putting anything consumable in there at all. And my thought process behind that is that anything consumable is going to run out. So anything I need that's consumable, I need to be able to find a way to replenish that out in the field. Also, one of the core concepts in constructing an inch pack, I think, is this understanding that everything is a balance. Everything that goes in that pack has a price, and the price is weight and bulk. So every item has to be examined based on the fundamental idea that, is the cost in weight and bulk worth the benefit of having this item in the pack? It's all a choice, it's all a balancing act. So one of the core concepts that I've built my system around is the belief that that while I believe strongly in having the means to defend myself, it's not the center of my system. My belief is that my best option in that kind of scenario will be stealth and avoiding conflict, things like that. So the ability to defend myself will be a last-ditch effort, and my goal in any fighting I might partake in will be to fight my way out of the situation and get back into a stealth mode. So I'm looking at any weapons and defensive systems as a means to disengage, a means to defend myself until I can disengage and move away. I just can't envision a scenario where it makes sense for me to be getting involved in sustained conflicts and things like that. So you won't see a heavy emphasis on weapons. In fact, you'll see that the firearms that are in my system are the higher selection criteria around those is the ability to be able to procure food with them. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of my philosophical reasons behind the pack. I think most of the disasters that are most likely to occur to me will not be to the extent that I would be forced to leave my home and civilization. The single factor that I believe most likely would necessitate me leaving my home in a disaster event is the threat of sustained imminent violence. And the reason why I believe that is because in a scenario where there's looters or some form of attackers or threat or violence, I don't believe that my home is a viable option for sustained defense. I think that by its very nature, a home is, in most cases, a home is not a very strategic, a very successful option for a defensive stronghold. You have finite resources within your home, you have finite resources, finite means to defend that home, and there's an infinite number of attackers or force, if you will, outside that home. So statistical averages just are not on your side in defending your home. Now, I understand that that's controversial topic and a lot of other people disagree with that, but that's what I believe. My EDLs pack or inch pack is for the express purpose of leaving civilization. So what that means is there is an absence of some things in there that are common to a lot of inch bug out bags. There's pretty much an absence of anything related to an urban environment. I don't have credit cards in there. I don't have things like that. And again, my philosophy behind that is if I'm using my EDLs pack, it's because society has degraded to a point or the disaster has gotten to a level that society as I know it has ceased to exist and is going to be a long time in repairing itself. So those things theoretically in that environment might be of little value. The other thing to keep in mind is while I spend a lot of time on my EDLs pack, I do recognize that it's a very, very narrow, slim possibility that a disaster to the degree that I would need it would come up. But it's a fun project. I really enjoy the challenge of it. At the end of the day, I realize that there's a very small chance that the right set of circumstances would come up that kind of a system would make sense and that kind of a solution would make sense. But in the meantime, it's a hell of a lot of fun, so I keep working on it. So hopefully that gives you guys kind of a broad philosophical overview on my EDLs system. Forward to kind of sharing this with you guys, and maybe there will be some things that you can learn from my experience along the way, and I know there's a lot of things I can learn from you guys, so I'll catch you on the next video.